Okay, we're having a giggle about what our conversation is about today, because infidelity has become such a hot topic, sparking a lot of debate and breaking down a lot of family bonds. So we're asking, from an African spirituality point of view, what are the implications of infidelity? And of course, whenever we speak African spirituality, we speak to African spiritual advisor Siamkize. So we were talking about the implications for men versus the implications for women if there's infidelity, and you'd gone quite in depth about what happens with maybe your income as a man, right, and being able to provide. But what about for women? You wanted to go deeper into that.
See, my only concern when it comes to women and their cheating, right, is that when there is a child as a result of the cheating, if you and the husband are married completely and culturally, leo ngane ngesiZulu we call it ilongwe.
Okay.
Right? So umuntu wesifazana, when ethelwe ngenyongo and she's been introduced to the family, that woman, all she'll give birth to is of that family, even if the father is not the biological child. Now, in most instances, they tell you, get out of here, take the child with you, go back home.
Yes.
Now the child is stuck in the position where they can't go back to their mother's surname because umau kishi. They can't take their biological father's surname because there's no ancestral tie to that. And that child suffers the most. When women cheat, the children, right, or the child of that particular infidelity will always suffer the most. And that is my concern.
What happens with a man who has a child out of the marriage? What happens to that child?
Leongane, what should be happening is that when, as a umuntu wesilisa, you need to sit your wife down and tell her the truth and come clean. That child needs to be acknowledged, because whether the child came from, how the child arrived, right, doesn't negate the fact that the child is still a blessing from the ancestors. And that child needs to be acknowledged that they are a blessing from the ancestors, because then what happens then is that that child not being acknowledged will come back and affect your children that you have here. So I always warn women about dating a man that's a deadbeat or an absent father, because they have a child already that is a blessing, but they haven't acknowledged it. So you're thinking, why, as a woman, you're sitting at home, you're like, why are my children suffering so much? And your husband has got a child outside that has gone unacknowledged. Or mhlambe there's a child that has been denied. Yabo. So that is something that, see, all of these things need to be considered. And I'm not saying cheat, I'm not saying don't cheat.
Sure.
I'm saying if you do cheat, it's always best to come clean and give your person or umuntu wakho the opportunity to make a decision. Singazama ukuyilungisa lento or singazama. In most cases, from our experience with working couples, most cases they're willing to work through it.
Okay,
right?
good.
In most cases, they're willing to
I
work
mean, I don't know if that's good.
right? Well, it's good in the sense that they haven't given up on the marriage.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, spiritual intervention will work. But the biggest thing in our experience that helps couples work through this is the change up here.
Yes, yes.
Right? If there isn't a shift mentally, then it's going to be difficult to work through.
I was thinking about what you said right in the beginning, that ultimately as partners, you need to both be so committed to your own psychological well-being and growth, spiritual well-being and growth, before you even bring yourselves together to build this marriage.
Yeah.
So in picking a partner, yes, Usmati, yes, yes, he can put me on jets to Dubai, but is he prayerful? Does he patla? Does he do all of this and he's committed to that? Because that actually is what keeps the sanity alive in the relationship. We asked you for some voice notes and we've got some. Let's have a listen.
Sanbanani, I'm so sorry, ngiphethe flu. Mina nami losindawa and I'm married. So ngiyenza iphutha ngalala nomunye umuntu. So ngokuthi ngizihlinze fanele ngiyenzeni?
Good morning, Baba Mkhize, ngisacela ukubuza ukuthi kunalento ukuthi ungithole ngilele nomuntu wami, but then bese ngicabanga lo engathandana naye osewadlula emhlabeni. Whenever I'm intimate with this person, sikubiza ukuthi yini lokho? How do we cleanse that?
Do you want to go for the second one first?
Yeah, let's go for the second one. So what should have happened after she broke up with the previous guy is she should have gone for a cleansing.
Okay.
Because spiritual ties happen, But more particularly, asazi ukuthi what that man was using to keep her there. Yabo. So reason why I always encourage people to cleanse after any breakup is because it removes anything that that person was using to try and
So
keep
what
you
does
there.
the cleansing entail?
So she would obviously have to send us a DM to get her to a healer, because
Okay.
then it would see, okay, fine, this is what has happened. Most of the time, a cleansing with a goat in Yongom Swane would work.
But you need a healer.
But, yes, you need
Okay.
it. But if Bekona that's inside that she's ingested,
Yes.
mhlawumbe uzodinga ukuthi aphalaze, or mhlawumbe she's going to have to steam.
Okay.
That's the first part.
That's
right?
yes, okay.
But clearly, you know what? Even if that spiritual element exists, she's also not moved on psychologically
Got it.
completely past from the ex.
So it's the full healing
she
that needs
actually
to
does need to move on from the relationship.
Let's tackle that first voice note. She
Yeah.
made a mistake, she says, and she slept with somebody else. What can she do?
Okay. So the best thing for her to do would be to first come clean to her husband.
Do you
And say-
absolutely have to?
You see, here's the thing, né? If you don't come clean, then it's better if it comes from you, because idlos lizothula.
Gotcha.
And then there's going to find out another way. And when they do find out another way,
worse.
it's worse.
Okay, got you. Okay,
Yabo?
so she has to come clean.
Exactly.
And
And
then?
we don't want her to find out, we don't want her to find out through ingane gulayo.
Okay.
Yabo.
Got
So kungcono that there's no one that is suffering, or no one that suffers the consequences of her keeping quiet.
So then she comes clean, and then there's a cleansing that needs to happen.
Then it would be up to the families what they decide in terms of inhlawulo yakhe, what needs to happen. Some families bazothi imbuzi embili. Some families bazothi it's fine. They don't have a lot of money. Inkukhu ezimbili, it's fine. You know, it would be but there would be isilwane that needs to come out as inhlawulo ethize.
Okay, we've got 1 more minute for 1 more voice note.
Let's
So let's
take
have a
it.
listen.
Morning. But see, I wanted to ask ukuthi njengengane ke gifted, and this thing from ubaba kuyacheat and ufulethi simnyama, then it affects her wena njengengane. So ingane ke how ingasizakala kanjani? Like in terms ukuthi usisile sinyama lesi.
Yeah.
Ngiyabonga.
So it's all about the cleansing in these questions. Once this has happened from any point of view, but this time from the children's point of view, what do you do, Hubatusa?
Okay, so it's not necessarily that the children would need the cleansing, right? By ubaba acknowledging axolise kumama, and then umama saying, fine, gezumuzi nomsamwa like her ngesilwane esithize. Once that is done, then it frees and releases all the other children from the spiritual consequences.
Okay, so that's why you actually do have to come clean. Because if you don't come clean, you're holding on to it and you can't
Exactly.
release your family.
Exactly.
Ooh, Siam Kiza, this is a very important conversation, because I think more and more with modernization, with the way we have access and reach to absolutely anything, of course, with more access, more opportunities for infidelity. So
Exactly.
it's important for us to always come to center and remember that we are African, and our African spiritualist ways dictate such.
Exactly.
How do we get hold of you?
On social media, it's at CMKize on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Obviously, I'm a lot more active on Twitter with hosting a lot of, coming up, going to be hosting a lot of Twitter spaces.
Nice.
Talking about these kind of topics, so Twitter would be best.
Brilliant. Siam Kiza, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's TMS with African spiritual advisor Siam Kize. Don't go anywhere. We're taking a short break.